Hey YouTube, Rook here from Rook Geek Goodness, my little channel on the web for all things geeky and cool. And before I do anything else in this video, I want to get my thoughts out and let my audience know, because you've asked me about this, at least on my most recent stream. What were my thoughts on the passing of Stan Lee? If you're not up to speed as far as the media goes, Stan Lee has in fact passed away at the age of 95 a few days ago as far as recording of this video. He was a trailblazer, a juggernaut when it came to comic book creation in the comic genre. He was part of the golden age of comics and created some of the most well-known, well-established icons and IPs of all comicdom. Characters like Spider-Man, Thor, the Fantastic Four, Hulk, the X-Men, just to name a few of some of the titles that he actually created back in his youth, in the golden age of comics. I just want to let my audience know that I do remember Stan Lee. I do remember, I want to kind of make this video in sort of honor of him. But as you may know on my channel, I do a lot of unboxing videos, toy hunts, and I do Funko reviews primarily on my channel. I thought, you know what, this would be a perfect time to do a Funko review for Stan Lee. That's right, guys, the Stan Lee Pops. I do have two of them in my personal collection. I'm going to do a full breakdown review of the Stan Lee Convention 2014 exclusive, this one right here, and the Stan Lee Kamikaze Pop that came out about a year or two ago, which is this one right here. There are differences between both these Pops, as you will see, and I will talk about in the breakdown segment. There's a lot of variance between both these Pops. Again, we'll talk about more of that in the breakdown segment, which I'll do, again, a full breakdown, look at the packaging as a whole for both these Pops. I'll look at the paint, the articulation, and I conclude the video with final thoughts for you, the viewer. Should you actually spend the money and pick up one of these two Pops here, either the Stan Lee Comic Convention Pop, this one, or the Stan Lee Collectibles Kamikaze Pop, this one? Stay tuned, guys. We're going to a breakdown. Alright guys, we're in a breakdown segment looking at both of the Stan Lee Pops. Of course, the Comic Convention version, which is this one, and the Kamikaze version, which is this one. And the very first thing we always do is look at the packaging and presentation. Let's take the Kamikaze one off to the side, and we'll look at the Comic Convention one first. Your typical Funko design packaging. You have Pops up here, you have Stan Lee Comic Convention right there, you have number 2 in the wave, you have a shot of his face right here, you have a window box display of Stan Lee showcasing him opening up his shirt. The sticker is what I want to bring your attention to. This is the Comic Convention 2014 limited edition sticker. You can only get this particular Pop when you went to comic conventions. They had a big booth there, which was known as the convention exclusive booth, where you get all your convention exclusive stuff. They had different variations of this Stan Lee Pop, which we'll talk about shortly. Side shot of what it would look like. You have the other side of the box, which says Stan Lee number 2. Top of the box, which showcases him as well. And on the back, it showcased different variations of what this Pop would look like with different outfits on. I'll showcase some other ones so you can see it now, what it would look like. There was all sorts of variations for this particular Pop. You had the Nuff Said one, I believe it's listed on here. No, it's not listed. You have SuperCon, which is a convention I've went to before. You have, of course, the Stan Lee, his little signature right there. You have the one which we're looking at, which is the Comic Convention, San Diego Comic-Con one right there. And they have a mystery one, which there was other variations of this identical Pop. I do like this one between the two a little bit more, just because there was a lot of variety, and you can get technically the one you really wanted. Now we'll take a look at the Kamikaze Pop. Very similar design, sort of a green packaging. It does say Pops here. You have the Stan Lee signature right there at the top, which is part of the Kamikaze wave. You have number 3 in that particular wave. You have a shot of him right there. Stan Lee at the bottom, and you have that Kamikaze sticker. I believe this was a Hot Topic exclusive. You have Stan Lee right there on the side. You have his name, Stan Lee number 3 right there. Top shot, which is identical. And on the back, you had some really cool ones. You had a shot right here with sort of green packaging. You had the red and blue one, which we're looking at. You had a blue and I think gray one with the same logo. And down here, you had a gold and silver version as well. So this is him basically as a superhero. That was the idea. But I like both these Pops. If you ask my personal opinion, which is better, I like the Comic Convention one a little bit more. With that being said, let's go and take these guys out of packaging and continue the breakdown. Alright guys, we have our Stan Lee Pops out of packaging. The very first thing we always do after we take something out of packaging is look at the paint and presentation. So we have two Pops here we're reviewing. Let's do them one by one. I'll take the Kamikaze Pop of Stan Lee out of the shot for right now, and let's focus on the Comic Convention 2014 version. Now all the Comic Convention versions of Stan Lee look just like this, with the exception of the outfit as far as the color goes. It's the same identical head sculpt. He's wearing pants and sneakers, and he's opening his shirt up to showcase some type of saying, either the convention he's at, San Diego Comic-Con, SuperCon, enough said. Different variations. I'll showcase so you can see right now some examples of what I'm talking about, so you kind of get the idea that it's the same identical pop as far as the body goes, the head goes, just a different set of clothing and a different shirt underneath. That's the only difference. Now the head looks really, really good. All Stanley Pops, be this version or the Kamikaze version, have the identical head sculpt. There's no difference. He has his big gold glasses on. He has his gray hair, gray on the sides. Like I said, he does have, this particular one is the San Diego Comic-Con convention shirt, which I like this shirt. That's why I picked this one. When I went to SuperCon a few years back, I wanted this version, mainly because I've never been to San Diego Comic-Con. I thought it'd be a very cool idea of getting Stan Lee in a San Diego Comic-Con based shirt. He does have the white shirt opening up to have the San Diego Comic-Con shirt underneath. It is the iconic logo of San Diego Comic-Con. He has sort of a dark black set of pants on and some white boots. There are no peg holes. He does not need any type of figure stand. He holds well without one. If you're curious, there is articulation. The head will spin 360 with no hindrance, and it is not a bobblehead. So it doesn't need a bobblehead, which is kind of odd thinking that he's Stan the Man Lee when it came to Marvel, but yet he doesn't require a bobblehead, which is kind of ironic, so to speak. But yeah, very, very cool. I love this pop. I think it's an awesome pop to get. Now let's take a look at the Kamikaze version of him. Again, identical head sculpt, no difference between his head sculpt and the convention exclusive head sculpt. They're the same. There's no difference between the two, as you can see here. I'm kind of turning them around so you can see what I'm talking about. The back is identical. There's no real difference between the two. Maybe the color on this one's a little darker than this one, just because maybe it's a different factory, but they're identical as far as the construction when it comes to the head sculpt. The difference really is the outfit and the buck, the stance. As you can see here, this stance is much different than this stance where he's opening up the shirt. So there's two real big varieties between these two. You can get it looking like this one here, or you can get him in the superhero outfit like this one, the Kamikaze outfit. Now, they made, I think, two other ones like this one. He has the same identical stance, but I think it's a full gray and blue shirt, I believe. I'll put a picture up so you can see what it would look like. He does have this really cool blue cape on, since he's like in a superhero. I do like the way it looks. He has like the Stan Lee symbol for the S right there on his chest. I love the way it looks. Articulation is the same. Head will spin with no hindrance, and it's not a bobblehead. So I definitely love the way he looks. There is one downside with this particular version of the Stanley Pop. He's a little back heavy, as you see right there. He'll tip backwards and he'll lean on his on the cape, which will kind of work to hold him in place. But he has a tendency to tip backwards because of all this material. Right, oops, get it in the shot. All this material for the cape. He does have a tendency to tip backwards, just so you will be aware. If you ask my personal opinion between the two pops, which one I prefer, I like the Comic Convention 2014 one a little bit better than the superhero one. I think he looks a little more iconic. He doesn't need to be a superhero. We know the great things he's done before. I do like when he's opening the shirt up to have different sort of conventions or different sayings. I like this one a little bit more than this one, in my personal opinion. So with that being said, let's go to final thoughts and wrap up this video. Alright guys, final thoughts on the Stanley Comic Convention 2014 pop and the Kamikaze Stan Lee pop. Now there are differences between two of them, as I mentioned in the breakdown. There's numerous variations for both these pops. Most of the time you'll see it in one of these two configurations, either in this body used or this body used. There are a couple one-offs that are completely different, like the one for Guardians of the Galaxy where he had the weird sort of glasses on, which was a Walmart exclusive. But most of the time you'll get him in one of these two variations with different outfits and different paint variants between the two. Now you're probably going to ask yourself, should you actually purchase one of these two? If you like Stan Lee, if you liked him as a person, if you like the type of things he created, absolutely buy these. These fit well on your shelf. They work like a pop. There's not an issue when it comes to bad paint. It's not an issue when it comes to being too back heavy or too top heavy. There's no figure stand needed. There's no peg holes. He stands really well, very solid base. The superhero version of him right here, even more so. It's even a squatter base. There are a little bit of tendencies for him to be a little back heavy because of the cape here, but all in all, I think it's a really good pop. Now, because of him passing away this week, the prices for things like this are going up even higher now. About, I would say a month and a half ago, this same pop that you see here, the Comic Convention 2014 pop, which you can really only get at comic conventions, that was the whole idea of this particular pop. at a price point of about $30 to $40. It has gone about triple the cost now, by 2.5 times the amount compared to what it was. This is about $8 to $10 on Stashpedia. The Kamikaze version, I want to say it's about $95. This one came out newer comparatively between the two of these pops. So this is a newer one compared to this one. If you had to pick one or the other, I like this one. I really like the one where he's opening up his shirt. You would see the sort of the show he's at, in this case San Diego Comic-Con, or maybe a Nuff Said shirt on, or a couple of the other ones that I showcased in the breakdown segment where you can see the different variations of this sort of pop. I would go with this one over the Kamikaze. But again, I want to give my thanks to Stan Lee as a person and as a creator. I hope you enjoyed this video. Definitely click that like button. Always click subscribe and subscribe to the channel. Click the bell icon to be notified of my latest videos. And of course, last but not least, you click Windows over here to watch more of my content. Take care, guys. I'll see you next video. And bye-bye.